6.000 años antes de Cristo, de forma accidental, nacía una bebida que cambiaría el rumbo de la historia. Olvier TV, el programa cervecero.
Baby, if you got the rock.
Bienvenidos a Olvier TV, el programa para los amantes de la cerveza y para aquellos que a partir de hoy la van a amar. En Minneapolis, Estados Unidos, conocimos el Brew Pub Town Hall y pudimos charlar con el Brewmaster Pete, y con Denise de Fermentis hicimos una increíble cata. Estamos conociendo uno de los bares hermosísimos que están en la ciudad, en Minneapolis. Se llama Town Hall. Estoy con Pete, que es el dueño, así que vamos a conocer un poquitito de la historia. Hi, Pete.
Hi, how are you?
Beautiful place, Town Hall. How many years do you have this?
We opened in 97, so in October it'll be 25 years.
Van a cumplir 25 años.
Yeah. Yes.
Contanos un poquitito acerca de las cervezas y la propuesta cervecera que tenés acá.
I think I was talking to the brewery a couple days ago. I think right now on tap we have, if you include the cask conditioned beers, we have 28 of our own beers on tap. And typically we make about 60 styles per year. We have a barrel aged week, which is in February, and we introduce roughly 15 barrel aged beers every year, and we typically have 3 to 5 of those on tap as well. And I think it's closer to 5 right now.
This place is like a temple in Minneapolis, no?
It's very well thought of, and I appreciate that. We've been around for a long time, and we've been able to bring up some brewers who've gone elsewhere, and so they generally talk highly of us as well. So we're lucky to be here a long time.
Yes, and people say it's the best place.
Well, I appreciate that's fantastic. I appreciate that.
Yes, Pete, how many medals do you win?
I believe, so we've entered the Great American Beer Festival. Typically every year since we've been open, we've won 15 medals there.
15 medallas.
And this is the first time that we've ever entered the World Beer Club, which is here, and that's one of the reasons why we entered it this year.
Oh my God!
We're anxious.
Bueno, lucky for this.
Yeah. We've been waiting a long time for Minnesota and Minneapolis to get the Craft Brewers Conference, so we're very excited to have people all over the world here. So it's nice.
It's very important to the city to make a job with the people.
Yeah. I think we've been with COVID. We've been kind of in a hiatus for the last 3 years. And I think it's important to get people into the city and get some tourism back.
After the pandemic.
Yes. So we're super excited.
Thank you for opening the bar for us.
My pleasure.
And talk with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Encontrarnos con la gente de Fermentis, encontrarnos con Marcelo Cerdán y con todo el equipo es una alegría enorme. Estamos en Minneapolis y en este caso visitando Town Hall, que es un bar fantástico. Vamos a hacer una degustación. Hola, Marcelito.
Hola, Graciela, ¿cómo estás? Tanto tiempo.
Súper feliz, súper feliz.
Bien.
Bueno, estamos con Denise, que ella es parte del equipo de Fermentis. Contanos un poquitito quién es. Primero le voy a saludar. Hi, Denise.
Hola.
Contanos.
Bueno, Denise es una especie de leyenda acá para la industria cervecera. Ella empezó desde muy joven con este movimiento, digamos, acompañó el crecimiento del movimiento. Por eso sabe absolutamente todos los secretos, conoce a todo el mundo y aparte también incursionó en destilados, ¿no? Digamos que es una persona que tiene un gran conocimiento, es un artista de esta industria realmente, por eso hay que aprovecharla mucho.
Muchísimo. Y aparte es una maestra cervecera, cocina cerveza desde el año 95, me lo dijo fuera de cámara.
Sí, yo no había nacido todavía, pero bueno.
Ok, gracias Marce, vamos a estar degustando 3 cervezas de acá y ahora compartimos la mesa.
Están en buenas manos.
Hi Denise, how are you?
I am well today, thank you. Nice to meet you today.
You stay here with Fermentis, but you are a judge.
I'm an international beer judge for professional competitions. So I've judged at Great American Beer Festival, at World Beer Cup, at European Beer Star, Australian International. So lots of different places around the world.
And today we taste 3 beers of here, 3 winners.
3 town hall winners, yes. So this first one in the middle is a cask conditioned porter. And Pete pulled it off of the hand pump, the old traditional English traditional way to condition the beer, where it has a secondary fermentation and it has all of its carbonation inside the cask itself. So similar to like a champagne, it goes through a secondary carbonation with a little bit of sugar inside the vessel to develop its own carbonation.
Yeah. The second?
The second beer is a fancy porter. It's a coconut porter. And it has, obviously a nice, rich cocoa chocolate flavor, but also a wonderful coconut flavor to it too that balances and makes it a really kind of a different spin on a porter. It really gives it a different, unique kind of a flavor, almost like a candy bar.
And this is one of my favorites.
This is a Grand Cru, and obviously this is a popular Belgian style beer that has a little bit of fruitiness to it, ester characteristics, and so it's got a nice rich color and some malt characteristics. Wonderful beer. Yeah, nice sipping beer. So initially what you have to think about with cask conditioned beer, it's not as carbonated typically as a regular draft beer. So it's going to have a little less carbonation, a little less prickly on the tongue, more flavor starts to come through, a little bit warmer, and so more flavor as well. So they're extremely flavorful. They're not flat beers like people think that they are, warm and flat. They're just a little bit warmer than a draft and a little bit less carbonated. Roasty, roasted barley, little nuttiness, really good. Nice, nothing too heavy, nothing too black or acrid or ashy. A nice little roasted flavor, almost like a coffee note to them. Little bit of sweetness, but not enough to be too sweet. Just a balanced bitterness and that little bit of acidity from the roasted malts. Really delicious beer. Since it's a porter as well, this one's pretty much the same thing, only it's going to be conditioned with CO2 in a tank. And it's going to be poured. It's a little bit colder, so the flavors aren't going to be as inviting in the very beginning. Usually these beers need to warm up a little bit. But
to open the flavor.
Open up the flavor, yeah, and the aromatics as well. Much more roastiness and a little bit of smokiness in this one. And you can smell that little bit of toasted coconut. Like a candy bar. Yeah, like chocolate and coconut. Yeah, lovely. It's a little bit sweeter than the other beer, just a little bit sweeter. But it's very balanced and has the sweetness matches the roasty characteristics, and it's really nice with that coconut flavor. I think that sometimes we get that impression of a barrel note, but I think it's the roastiness. I think that it's that soft sweetness and that roastiness, but it does come off as a nutty character. Yeah,
Complete the flavor.
Yeah, a little bit of vanilla like a bourbon would have, definitely.
Yes. Okay, what happened with the Grand Cru?
The Grand Cru, it's a beautiful beer. Soft esters, little fruity esters, little fruity bits. I can smell the malt, caramel malts, a little bit more sweetness in the nose, yeah. That little bubblegum note, yeah, A little bit of phenol, not very much, just that little hint of phenol, and some esters, little bubblegum esters, and that malt characteristic. It's very smooth. So for the amount of alcohol that's in this beer, it's very well hidden. So it could be a dangerous beer for you. Yes?
Tengan cuidado. Okay.
You get the little bubblegum note.
Yeah, yes.
Because you don't taste the alcohol. It's very lovely beer. All three are winners in my book.
Yes.
Definitely. It does have a little grape note to it, doesn't it? Like a little sweetness.
Yes.
Sometimes these beers finish a little drier.
Yes.
And then the esters, the little sweet bits from the yeast fermentation, can offer sweetness, the impression of sweetness. So sometimes there really isn't that much sweetness. It's just your impression of sweetness from the esters. Yeah.
Yes.
But definitely a dangerous beer.
You are perfect to explain. You describe the beer in the way to easy to understand. So thank you. This is our first tasting.
It's our first tasting?
Yes. Here in Minneapolis, we taste a lot more.
A lot more beers? Yeah, well, I look forward to tasting a lot more beers with you in the future. So we can talk about beer anytime. You just invite me and I'll come talk.
Thank you for your candor.
Adiós.
Gracias Fermentis por compartir este maravilloso almuerzo. Salud. Molinos BZ, el punto justo de la molienda para la elaboración de cerveza. Cervezas de barrica Areco, un espacio para degustar o llevarse a su casa increíbles cervezas barrel age y de guarda. En San Antonio de Areco, cervezas de barrica Areco.
En Salute, sucursales en La 2 y Lomas, envío sin cargo a todo Zona Sur y Capital Federal. Más de 200 etiquetas para todos los gustos.
Hofsteiner, fundada en 1845, líder mundial en la industria del lúpulo, calidad, sostenibilidad e innovación de nuevas variedades y productos de lúpulo. Hofsteiner, líder mundial en la industria del lúpulo. Birra Masarte, Desarmadero Bar, en la esquina de Gorriti y La Valleja. Fermentis, easy to use, fácil de usar. Inoculá directamente o rehidratá con mayor flexibilidad. Fácil, limpio y sustentable. Más información, fermentis.com.
Si no ves el 3 picos, parate en punta de pie.
Lúpulos Andinos, organizadores del Congreso de Lúpulo. Gorila, Cervecería Argentina. La evolución de la involución. Juguetes Perdidos en su segundo festejo por los 7 años.
¡Feliz aniversario, juguetes!
Nos encontramos en la queridísima fábrica de Juguetes Perdidos aquí en Caseros. ¿Por qué? Porque estamos en una de las celebraciones por los 7 años. Bueno, primero, salud. Salud, salud.
Opi. Gracias, chicos, por venir, como siempre. La verdad que esto no se termina acá, son 7 años, 7 eventos. Vamos por el segundo, creo, ¿no?
Sí, pero qué evento este. 7 birrones, ahí estuvieron fuera de cámara haciendo videíto conmigo, explicando qué birrones, pero tremendo estar brindando con estas locuras de juguetes, ¿no?
Y bueno, a eso es lo que nos gusta a nosotros. El taproom pasado fueron todos IPA y hoy son todos cervezas barrel age y bombas de guarda, así que bueno. Y veremos con qué venimos más adelante. No podemos decir nada, si no me pegan.
Tenemos contrato de confidencialidad por los próximos eventos.
Sí, sí, ya lo sé, ya lo sé. Esto va a salir este fin de semana, por lo tanto, yo podría estar anunciando lo que se va a venir, pero no, voy a respetar.
Mira, por lo pronto el próximo jueves tenemos un tap day cover en la fábrica San Martín con Maxi de Canfa que nos viene a cocinar hamburguesas.
Ah, bueno, eso está muy bueno.
Y presentamos la nueva K47.
Bueno, birrón.
Hola, ¿qué tal?
A los que les gustan los lúpulos, birrón.
Y hoy estamos presentando la Imperial Stout de los 7 años.
Bueno, ahora la tengo que probar. Yo estoy con esta sour tremenda, sí.
La Sour Power es una de las cervezas más ricas que tenemos hoy. Pero sí, la estrella hoy es la cerveza del 7º aniversario, ¿no?
Vamos, ahora ya termino la nota con ustedes y la voy a probar. Chicos, estoy muy feliz porque, al igual que nosotros, ustedes se montaron un camino y lo siguen hasta las últimas consecuencias, porque a veces no es fácil estar en la misma ruta que uno se planteó con las realidades que tenemos económicas, ¿no? Pero sin embargo dijeron, vamos por acá y esto es lo que vamos a hacer, y cada vez disfruto más de las birras de ustedes.
Gracias, Grace. El camino no se termina, la verdad no tiene fin. Para nosotros es esto, creo que hoy estamos celebrando cuando nos juntamos hace más de 7 años y dijimos, queremos hacer esto. ¿Qué nos gusta? La cerveza de barrica y la cerveza bull. Hoy estamos acá con 7 canillas.
Tremendo.
De barricas, algunas tienen 2 años. Está la Sour Power tirada, que la verdad que
tremendo. No, bueno,
es una novedad.
Esto es tremendo, esto es tremendo. Normalmente es botella, no es tirada.
La novedad es que está en barril, ¿viste? La gente la estaba esperando, nos estaba preguntando, menos mal, ¿cuándo la saca? Nada, es para eventos especiales, solamente.
Totalmente.
Siempre te preguntan, no, pero ¿cuándo la van a tener tirada? No, esa cerveza no, y de repente aparece. Y bueno, estos son los eventos donde tienen que aparecer, ¿no?
Son los eventos que uno está esperando para disfrutar, para brindar con ustedes, porque ustedes fueron pioneros en el festival que hicieron, que yo sé que en algún momento va a volver, y nada, son inspiradores. Esas son las cosas que van marcando caminos y que entusiasman a muchos, como dijimos en el vivo y que yo estuve presente también, y mucha gente se copó diciendo, ustedes se atrevieron a hacer algo que nos contagió a todos, y eso fue extraordinario, chicos, extraordinario.
Sí, la verdad que hoy, se ve en la cerveza que hace distintas cervecerías de todo el país. Lo que marcó ese evento en su momento fue para festejar nuestro 4º aniversario, 15.
Exacto.
fue en esta época justamente.
Exactamente.
Así que nada, Argentina creció mucho en este nivel de cervezas, ya lo sabemos, ya sabemos las noticias. Felicitaciones a Astor, la verdad que unos grosos con la medalla que han ganado en la World Beer Cup.
Irradia, como ustedes también en todas las otras medallas. Irradia, chicos, da ganas de seguir escalando en sabiduría y en birrones.
De probar, de no aflojar, de darle siempre para adelante, pensando que siempre se puede hacer algo mejor. No quedarte con lo que haces, sino siempre tratar de decir cómo lo puedo hacer mejor. Esa es la filosofía.
La cerveza artesanal independiente, que la vamos a apoyar a morir hasta nuestras últimas consecuencias. Así que bueno, nada, salud.
Gracias.
Estamos sirviendo la Coco Imperial, es una Imperial Porter.
Hola, ¿cómo te va?
Buenísima.
Espectacular.
Muy buena, muy buena.
Mirá cómo te ha servido.
Mira cómo te ha servido.
Todo. Y acá vamos con la Doppelbock.
Todo bien acá, celebrando con una Imperial Stout. Espectáculo.
Genial.
Felices.
Ornamental.
Pablo, bajista, amigos.
Salud, amigos, de los creadores del éxito del FC.
Felicidades, Juguetes Perdidos. Esperamos los siguientes festejos. Heller, bar de fábrica, la perfecta combinación entre todos nuestros estilos de cervezas artesanales junto a la mejor gastronomía. Heller, en Mar del Plata.
Cada lugar y cada momento tienen un estilo distinto. Cada espacio se transforma con un sonido. ¿Y vos? ¿Sos capitán de tu vida?
Surprise, motherfucker.
De lunes a lunes, toma la exquisita cerveza artesanal Antares en La Plata, 56, Diagonal y Parador. Choperas Cabo de Frío, la solución en fabricación e instalación de choperas. Frío Beer, chillers y torpedos, micro y macro cervecerías, asesoramiento profesional, instalación, www.friobeer.com.ar. Ámsterdam, Friends Factory, La Plata, el lugar en tu mundo. Sudamericana de Filtrado Sociedad Anónima. Alta calidad, máxima eficiencia y rendimiento. Más de 50 años en la industria del filtrado. Guten Bier, producimos nuestra cerveza. Podés encontrarla en nuestros bares de Lomas y Cañuelas. Guten Bier, grandes birras, grandes bares. Cervecería artesanal Coleman. Desde hace 8 años, elaborando un producto artesanal genuino. Coleman, construyendo cervezas. En Minneapolis 2022 charlamos con Pease, presidente y CEO de la Brewers Association. Qué alegría poder charlar con el presidente y CEO de la Brewers Association, que realmente es el sustento y la creación de todo lo que estamos viviendo aquí en Minneapolis. Hi, Bob Pease. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Graciela. How are you?
So happy. Return.
It's great to be able to spend some time with you. And yes, we're just so excited to be able to have the conference again and to be in person and to just bring everybody together. Everybody here is a member of the Brewers Association. So to be able to bring all of our members together in Minneapolis and have that spirit of collaboration is, you can just feel it as you walk around the convention center. So yeah, we are extremely happy.
Yeah. And you are a fighter because you stay like this and your team in 2 years so difficult, help people. Please tell about all your works since 2020 hasta ahora, now.
Sure. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, that was a big shock for the Brewers Association and for all of our members. Because as you well know, when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, the on-premise, where people go to the brewery or the restaurant to drink beer, it was totally shut down. And for craft brewers, that was particularly devastating because craft brewers do really well on premise with draft beer. At pre-pandemic, all beer sales in the United States were 10% of those were draft, but for craft brewers it was 30%. So like poof, that went away in the blink of an eye. And so for the association, on one hand, we focused immediately on what we could do to help our members survive. And so that took shape in many different ways, but primarily that effort was led by our government affairs team, the people that work on regulations and legislation either at the federal or state level. And so we were initially the area that we were most active in was getting brewing and breweries deemed as essential businesses, because if you remember back when the pandemic hit, only essential businesses were allowed to stay open.
And do not go to work.
Yeah, and so we were successful with that. So that was, one of the big things right away, a huge victory that people I think have somewhat lost sight of. Because that allowed breweries to stay open, and then once they continued to produce and make beer, then we started working more at the state and local level to allow for breweries to deliver their beer to the beer drinker or the consumer at home. Because as you probably well know, in many states, before the pandemic, that was not allowed legally. You could only get beer either to take home take from the store to take home, or to go to the restaurant or brewery to drink on site. So we were successful with that as well, and have to give credit where credit is due. State governments around the country were very responsive, understanding that hey, we need to quickly change laws to help these businesses stay in business. Because when we first surveyed our members at the start of the pandemic, the initial survey said that 60% or more thought they were going to have to close if the current conditions stayed the same. But so we worked tirelessly to not to let those conditions stay the same.
Yeah.
And then once things kind of stabilized with breweries being deemed essential, they were allowed to stay open, they were allowed to produce, they were allowed to sell beer to go or for delivery. We turned our attention to working with our allies in the United States Congress at the federal level to be very active advocates for all of the different federal relief programs that the federal government put in place. The first one was the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. Now that wasn't just the Brewers Association, obviously, lobbying for that, but we were very active with our contacts and our allies in Congress. And over the years, the Brewers Association has developed, for the 15 years in the making, we have outstanding relationships in both the United States Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives. So we have some serious allies that are senior leadership in the Congress, and so we had their ear on working with the Small Business Administration and Administrator Guzman, who is the new head of the SBA. So the Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, was first. Then after that, there was a program called the Employee Retention Tax Credit, which was a program that rewarded businesses that kept people employed. They rewarded businesses with money, with grants. And then one of our probably most significant accomplishments was our involvement with the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, the RRF. We had a very good relationship with the primary author of that bill in the U.S. House of Representatives, and initially that language for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund did not specify whether brewery tasting rooms, tap rooms, or brew pubs would be eligible to receive funding for that. So we were able to advocate for specific language to be included in that legislation that clearly stated tasting rooms, tap rooms, and brew pubs were eligible for this relief program. And so in the end of the day, about 1,500 different breweries received $450 million of federal relief. And so, we really think that was a really significant accomplishment on behalf of our members.